Salutare chat, sunt Alexandru Negrici. În momentul filmării acestui videoclip suntem la o zi distanță de alegerile parlamentare din Germania, care au decis un nou cancelar, în proporție de 90% fiind vorba despre Friedrich Merz. Așa cum arată rezultatele acum, partidul CDU condus de Merz va ocupa o treime din locurile din Bundestag, în total 208 locuri. Creștini-democrații sunt urmați de partidul neonazist AfD, care va ocupa cel mai probabil undeva în jur de 150 de locuri, iar după aceea vom avea pe social-democrați cu 120 de locuri, pe Verzi cu 85 de locuri, pe socialiști cu 64 de locuri și, într-un final, partidul PSP cu un singur loc parlamentar. Pentru a discuta impactul acestor rezultate asupra societății germane și nu numai, l-am alături de mine pe Nico Schubert, membru al partidului Die Linke, o formațiune de stânga care a crescut neașteptat în popularitate în ultimele săptămâni, de la aproximativ 3% în sondaje la un rezultat de aproape 9% în alegeri. Acesta este și partidul favorit al tinerilor din Germania, atât al acelora cu drept de vot care s-au prezentat duminică la urne, cât și al liceenilor care adesea participă la sondaje acolo. Asta în ciuda sumelor mari de bani pe care AfD le cheltuie pentru targetarea tinerilor impactați de eșecul sistemului economic. Hello, Nico.
Salutare, chat. Thank you for having me.
Firstly, let's focus a little bit on the results we have so far. Are there better or worse than you have imagined? Also, progressives in Romania might not understand why SPD, Greens, and the left did not build an alliance in order to secure more seats, like in France, for example. So why is the left so divided in Germany?
Well, first of all, the SPD and the Greens, just like all of the other parties in Germany, are hard to be considered left anymore. The left coalition really does not exist anymore in Germany. We used to have dreams 10, maybe 20 years ago of a coalition between SPD, Greens, and left, because those are supposed to be the parties left of the center. But especially in the last 2 years, with migration rhetoric ramping up, it's clear that SPD and Greens just want to be in a coalition with the CDU, because the CDU in polls has always, for the last 2 years, been clearly above 30%. It has looked like CDU will create the government for a long time now. So they have been getting closer and closer to them. And up until 2 weeks ago, it looked like the left party wouldn't even make it to parliament. So no one really cared about left positions anyways. Now they have made it, but a coalition is just by the numbers not possible. And also it is the SPD that said we won't do a coalition with the left anyways. The Greens have started a smear campaign just before the election to the left party. So it is pretty clear right now in the course of the election that the left party is alone. It stands alone with leftist positions in German parliament.
What would you consider to be the greatest factor that contributed for the rise of popularity of the left in the last few weeks? And I know that you are great on TikTok. And I want you to tell me more about how was the communication actually made by Heidi Reinig. I hope I pronounce it right.
Yes.
Yeah. In Romania, we also have parties that communicate on TikTok, but they usually tend to focus more on trends instead of trying to have a discourse on issues. So how did you balance that during the campaign?
The one thing that has fascinated me personally was after the election, it was the voters were asked, what was your main reason for voting for the party? And it was usually, they asked, was it the people? Was it the personality cult that you voted for, like the candidate that you voted for, or the party program, like the actual values and the actual plans that they have? And the left party is the only party where overwhelmingly 80% of the voters were just voted for the party because they like the program. The left party doesn't even have a chancellor candidate. The reason the left has gotten so popular on TikTok right now is because they saw that their polls were around 3%. You need 5% to get into parliament. So they devised a plan. Projekt Silberlocke was the first part. Because in Germany, you can get into parliament even under 5% if you have 3 direct mandates. And the left has a couple of old white men that are very popular in their local states where you can get the direct mandate. So that was their project to say, okay, we have these at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 guys, old grandpas, that will make sure that we get into parliament. so people are not as scared, because in Germany, voting for a small party is always seen as throwing away your vote if you can't make sure that they're in parliament. That was part number one, focusing on the old legends, so to say. And the second part was actively choosing the cooler, younger members of the left party, which there are a lot. It is not a old theoretical Marxist party, but it is also filled with the younger sort of social issue people, you know, more interested in queerness and stuff. We have those. And the best example, although everyone has started working with TikTok, is Heidi Reicheneck, because she, as a 35-year-old woman with her full arm tattooed, there's pictures of her smoking a hookah, you know, she's like very relatable to the youth. She's doing TikToks using meme language. Some of the other people have also started using meme language as well. Really getting to the heart of the issue on TikTok. And the analysis after vote shows that it is particularly among 18 to 25-year-old women, they voted 33% for the left party. That is a number, and that is by far the most out of any party. That is the craziest number the left has ever gotten in any demographic. Young women specifically are feminist and are smart, and the only party they can vote for in German parliament right now anymore. It used to be a lot of young women are Greens, but the Greens have abandoned left values. They have just aligned with conservatism. So a lot of the most first voting, the most 18-year-old voters, all of those demographics, new young people, they're all voting for the left.
Tell me more about this trend of green parties that are leaving their electorate, that are leaving their voters behind on key issues. Tell me more about how they did it in Germany, because we see that, for example, on immigration, they have very similar proposals, very similar policies, like AfD, with AfD, for example.
The Greens have been historically, I would say, it started in the 90s. The party officially is called Bündnis 90 Die Grünen, so that's like the union of 1990, the Greens. That's when sort of multiple parties joined together. They were always seen as the hippie party, like the idealistic hippie party that wants to stop nuclear nuclear weapons expansion, but mostly nuclear energy, and then save the planet, basically using green politics. But they always had like a realistic realo wing and the idealistic wing, and the idealistic wing has nothing to say. Like the left wing they had never had anything to say. As soon as the Greens had a chance to get into coalition, to get into government, they just say we're taking responsibility by getting into government and abandoning all of their ideals. So for the biggest issue right now for this would be migration. There used to be a country that says we do not want to kill migrants at the EU border, have them drown, right? But now they're proposing these policies to very clearly abandon fleeing people at the border, which is a key issue that people voted for the Greens for. And they have had a chance. The last election, they got 16%, and they just want to be seen as a Volkspartei in Germany, which usually is only seen, CDU or SPD are like the party of the people, you know, like the middle party, the majority party. The Greens want to be seen as that as well. So they have just taken over popular societal opinions like we need to be more strict towards immigration. We have an immigration problem. We need to solve this. And they have abandoned all of their ideals for that. And especially economically, which no one talks about anymore in public discourse, but people are aware that everyone in Germany knows that the Greens are not doing climate change policy that really works, that is for the people, that people can work with. They're doing climate change policy for the rich. It is basically just, if you have the money, you can cooperate, you can buy products that are green, and then you can do something good. But if you're poor, then you're the reason the world is going to end, basically. And we're not going to help you with that. That is basically what is going on. And people are realizing that.
And also they became more neoliberals, as I imagine. Tell me more about that. I mean, did they abandon the focus on, I don't know, renting control, for example?
The only thing they're doing for politics, social policy, is basically saying nice things. They have not been a driving force in the coalition. They used to be in coalition, with SPD's Greens and the neoliberal FDP. They were not the driving force behind any realistic social change, and they have stopped talking about that almost entirely. It is not their platform anymore, because it is not the milieu that is actually voting for them. It is not poor people that vote for the Greens. It is a very clear demographic that the Greens are doing politics for, which is privileged liberals, I would say, people that are not rich and conservative, but well off, and they want to save they want to feel good. They want to allow civil liberties, queer rights, stuff like this, but they do not see the problem with social injustice. And that has been pretty much the case since the first time they went into coalition, into a government over 20 years ago. They have completely forgotten. They have become a neoliberal party a long time ago, and it has only gotten a stronger neoliberal influence. They do not believe that they need to abolish capitalism to save the environment. They believe that you can use tactics and give people a 30% discount of solar panels, and then it'll all work out. Then everyone can afford a solar panel, so like this.
But how come that the left became the only party in Bundestag that does not propose to implement any anti-immigration policies? Most of all, why are the German politicians so obsessed about immigration, given the fact that they should have much bigger concerns? And the biggest concern, looking at data, should be the rising inequalities between Western and Eastern Germany, even after 30 years of unification.
Yeah, for the people in the East, for sure. If you look at the voting, the people in the East vote much more radically, both to the far right and to the far left, because they are much worse off. It is a clear divide of former Eastern German states, because they did not, in reunification in 1991, they did not get incorporated properly into the state. All the companies got sold off very cheaply. The labor was basically used as slaves, I would say, even. They were not properly re-educated, and they have been used as a scapegoat in Germany ever since. If anything goes wrong, it's the lazy Eastern Germans, right? The old Soviets, right? Eastern Germans, they don't know how to work. It's always been a scapegoat. What was the first question before for that?
Yeah, how that the left became the only party in Bundestag that does not propose anything against immigration. And also, if you can focus more on that, maybe the reason why in the Eastern Germany they are so against immigration is because they used to be the scapegoats. And right now they are looking for other scapegoats. It's something called or human do when they are oppressed like that.
Probably that is also a contributing factor, but it is the biggest factor is still the material conditions. The people in the East are poorer. They have a harder time getting jobs, getting an education, feeding their families. Basically, it's come to that point, and rents are getting higher and higher and higher. And the people in the East are much worse off, and the worse off someone is, the more ready someone is to use a radical movement. And the reason we've been only talking about migration in Germany, right? There's only been the issues, basically only been 3 issues, also in the chancellor debates and in the news. It's only migration, the migration problem. So everyone sort of already agrees we have too many immigrants. How do we solve this problem? The migration problem, Ukraine conflict, maybe a little bit the Palestine conflict in Gaza, but no one in Germany, we have a very special way of talking about this, so this doesn't really get talked about a lot. But also we have a social welfare program called Bürgergeld, like citizen money, and it is what you get if you don't have a job. Like if you haven't had a job for half a year or 1 year, depending, then you'll get to Bürgergeld, which is a very low amount of money that is supposed to keep you alive. And in Germany, then they kind of start forcing you into work. They give you offers, and if you don't agree with those offers, we've been saying that, okay, the German system is failing because everyone's just taking the free money. although it is all in all only, I think, 13,000 people who really are not accepting the work. There's 13,000 out of 80 million citizens. Not a real issue. It's a small issue, but apparently that's the reason our system is collapsing. And of course, the immigrants. They're always
very similar, very similar in Romania. And also, I've heard Merz talking about that program, and yeah, he said that he wants to cut that program entirely.
Yes. It has been the SPD historically as well that have been harsher about it. The CDU doesn't even have to do their job because the SPD is already so CDU-like. The Overton window has shifted so far right that even the Social Democrats are saying, we need to start being more aggressive with these people. If they don't agree to the job, then they get cuts. They get 2 months without money. If you're saying to these people like two months without Bürgergeld, then they have literally no money, right? There's zero money. That is how you get homelessness. And I don't think I have to explain to you, right? I have to explain to liberal friends that cutting social welfare for the jobless is bad for everyone with a job because you get more scared. There's more pressure on you. The better the pay for jobless people is, the more you can negotiate for your pay. Don't have to explain this to you, but the German people don't understand this because of the media narrative. And to understand that, maybe from your point of view, the Axel Springer group, that is the people that they own, for example, Politico, that is internationally known, and they also own almost every major news outlet in Germany. There are some that are not, but all the big ones, the Bild, those that that's basically and also online, a lot of them online with a lot of ad space. It's the biggest media company in Germany. Media enterprise, exactly. And they are very openly right-wing. Axel Springer is very openly right-wing, right? They are actively manipulating. It is the same way that in America, there is a huge owner of a lot of the media, and they're basically all the local media just keep saying the same thing to manufacture consent. It's basically state propaganda from the rich. We have that same thing in Germany, and they are active. There has been a scandal because they have been trying to make the Greens candidate because they hate Greens, although the Greens are also pro-business. They obviously hate the left the most, but the left has been not a threat for a long time. Now they're starting to be angry about the left. They wanted to do a smear campaign against the Green candidate, and they have been only talking about migration. They have been making sure that is the topic, that no one is talking about taxing the rich, cutting rent prices, cutting grocery prices, lowering the taxes for groceries, right? The value-added tax. Anything that the left is offering that can actually do a meaningful change, as statistics show. They don't want us to talk about that, and it has actively worked. That also the state media, the general media, general consensus just says, okay, the problem is the immigrants, the problem is the social spending. How do we fix this? And no one is asking, apart from the left party, no one is even having the conversation that we need to maybe tax from the top, take from the top so that we can save the people at the bottom. That is the state currently in Germany.
So a lot of distractions. And because we are talking about distractions, how is immigration actually perceived by the German society, not just by the politicians? Because some people might argue that it looks like during 1920s. Other may be considered that it looks like during 1930s. But, this phrase "never again" does still mean something for the regular German, or it's just a phrase that lost its meaning at all?
Well, first question, the way people in Germany see migration, very clearly, the media is only talking about migrants doing violent crime, right? In Germany, it's the public opinion that the migrants are doing violent crime. There has been a study just published a week before the election that shows 80% of all migrant crimes get reported in mass media, get headlines. There was Magdeburg, Aschaffenburg. If I say these words to a German, they will know what happened. There's just one immigrant, murdered 1 or 2 people. And there's like 3 of those happened in the last couple of weeks. But in that same time, it was a dozen or two dozen Germans that killed either left-wing people or immigrants. A lot of Germans killing immigrants, much more than the immigrants killing the Germans. but those don't get reported, right? From those, less than 20% of the German crimes get reported. So it is clear that they're being manipulated. It pays more to have to say, okay, this immigrant is currently knifing someone. So that is what people are believing right now. The immigrants are violent and the Germans are not. Although the statistics would tell you, actual police statistics will tell you, although the migrants are of poorer communities, they don't get properly integrated by the German state. They are less criminal violently. The only thing that is really on the rise is right-wing violence. Neo-Nazi violence is actually on the rise, statistically, very much so. But no one is talking about that because that is just part of the plan, I would guess. That is a good transfer to the never again. Niemals ist jetzt. That's sort of the slogan that Germany has been saying since almost the 50s, that we were responsible for the Holocaust, and we as a German society, we have a society of remembrance. We cannot allow this to happen again, never again. But it is pretty clear that in Germany, this sort of regret and this shame is more performative than anything, because Germany has not been doing any active anti-fascist work as a state. Right? Doing the swastika, drawing the swastika somewhere, or doing the Nazi salute is illegal in Germany. That's the bare minimum. That is not like anti-fascist work. We're not even really. There was a clearly neo-Nazi party, Nationalistic Party of Germany, clearly neo-Nazi party. People saying we need to gas the Jews, literally stuff like that, and they did not get banned because they were politically irrelevant, right? We did not ban them because they were politically irrelevant. Now the AfD is saying the same things that the NPD said back then. And we're not banning them, although they're very clearly politically relevant, right? We have to wait until they're in power, I guess, before we ban them.
But do the people actually realize that there are a lot of similarities between how they are perceiving immigrants and how they used to perceive Jews during the 1920s, 1930s?
Leftists would agree. Leftists would know. Leftists would understand. If you really look at history, it is pretty clear that the same things are starting. Right? In Germany, it is also not, in Germany it did not just start with concentration camps one day to the next, and suddenly 6 million Jews are dead. It is a process that starts. And if you look at writing from that time in Germany, which we get taught in school, we should know this. It starts very gradually. It is always pretty socially acceptable. Like you work with the Overton window, you shift it to the right, you do some things, some more things. They started with book burnings of the first trans clinic. They started killing and imprisoning unionists, communists, socialists. They started going for Sinti and Roma and the Jews. Ideologically very early, and then very early they also began starting to incarcerate them, which then after some time, after I would say the first year, I'm not quite clear on all the specifics, that's when most of the communists were dead, most of the socialists were dead. That's when they started working to do a mass ethnic cleansing. But that only came after all those first steps. It did not start with gas chambers for the Jews and people just said, oh, perfect, let's go. No, it had to work. It had to work slowly like that. And we are currently, doing these same kind of steps, just like Trump is doing in America, starting to allow more sentencing, starting to say the immigrants are criminal, using this rhetoric. And a lot of people are not aware. The political center in Germany would say, well, the AfD is a party and it represents the democratic will of 20% of the people. We would have to listen to them. But it's the classic Karl Popper paradox of what is the word?
Tolerance,
tolerance paradox. Yeah, it is. No one understands that if you just say, okay, the AfD is an opinion that many Germans have. If you accept that, they will do the first thing they will do is kill their political opponents and start incarcerating them, the leftists, so that the voices get more quiet. The voices of resistance get more quiet. And then they will go for social democrats, and then they will go so they can do whatever they want. And then they will go for the Jews and for the Muslims and for everyone else. That is the way history will take its course if Germany does not understand this. And I think because of the place Germany has in society, this German society has, and the history they have, especially the young people, they know and they understand that something needs to be done, but the media and the party, the AfD and whatever, they understand that it is like that too, and they're trying to sell it. They're trying to always say, no, we're not Nazis. What are you saying? Like we are just the party of common sense. They're not trying to be real Hitlerites.
Don't they say that Hitler was actually a socialist?
Yeah, something like that as well. Alice Weidel, in her call with Elon Musk, she said, Hitler, National Socialist. He was a self-proclaimed socialist. He was a communist. Which is crazy. And even like the literal Alexander Gauland, who is just a Nazi, is even worse than Weidel. Not the worst in the AfD, but there's even worse. He even said, like, that is bullshit. No one is taking you seriously if you say that. But it is, the AfD doesn't have to take responsibility, because they can just say whatever they want, and then when people are outraged, they just say, that was just a figure of speech. They are just like Elon Musk in America, right? And Trump. They are testing the waters. They feel like they can do basically anything without a lot of problems, because they can get away with it, because German people are not actually resisting. Right now, we are seeing, after the CDU tried to pass a law with the AfD, we had a lot of people on the streets, but there is no militant resistance as there was, at least in the 1920s. In the 1920s, at least, the Nazis had to try to kill the communists because the communists were fighting back. The communists had a militia. The communists were dangerous. Leftist voices in Germany do not have the same power. It is just a lot of people posting on social media and then going on the streets, but not actively, militarily sort of scaring the Nazis, right? Apart from maybe punk culture.
Okay. We only have 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Please tell me, because I see on the polls that around 40% of those with low income voted with AfD. This is extremely similar to Romania as well, and to Austria, Italy, Netherlands, US, everywhere fascists gain momentum in the past years. So why do you think the left around the world lost these people, and what should be done in order to prioritize them for the future, in order to bring them back?
Well, there is a clear correlation between when people are poor, they want social change, right? If you're poor and the politicians have not worked for you, then obviously you want something else. The vast majority is not politically educated enough to know that it has been the extraction of wealth by the capitalist class that has oppressed them, that has made sure that they are losing real wages, that they are losing the opportunity to pay to live, that everything gets more expensive, and that they have real issues. The right is doing a great job manipulating the media, because they have also they are backed by corporate media. They are backed by the money, by the capital, to find scapegoats, to say migration is the classic, social equality programs are a classic. They have the same in Romania. They're doing the same everywhere. Classic diversion tactics. So people that are not in the know are fighting left to right, are fighting to the immigrants instead of bottom up, right? Instead of organizing together. I have to be mad about the person making 20,000 more than me, or the person making 20,000 less than me. They're all at fault, instead of the millionaires and billionaires. And what the left can do is obviously use very smart and simple rhetoric. That is what the left is doing in Germany right now. They're just saying, for example, the candidate, my name is Jan van Aken, and I don't think billionaires should exist. Clear message. Everyone can agree with that. My family, everyone can agree. Billionaires should not exist. Very simple, clear message. That is a good way of doing it. And the communists have to show that they can support the people. They have to show that they can do mutual aid, that they can be in local communities and help the poor people, instead of just talking and talking. Talking and doing TikToks will not save the people. You have to actually work with them and care for your fellow human beings. That is the work that socialists have to do.
Thank you so much, Nico. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.